This was rather unexpected, but Zohran Mamdani traveled to the White House to meet with President Trump, and there's a lot to talk about here, so let's not filibuster any longer.
Thank you very much. We've just had a great meeting, a really good, very productive meeting. We have one thing in common. We want this city of ours that we love to do very well. And I wanted to congratulate the mayor. He really ran an incredible race against a lot of smart people, starting with the early primaries against some very tough people, very smart.
Well, smart people's questionable. I guess Cuomo might be smart in the sense that he knows what to do to play the dirty politics game, but like Cuomo is just not a good person. I have no respect for Cuomo. He's a total fucking sleazebag. And Sliwa, funny enough, if I had to pick between Cuomo and Sliwa, I would actually vote for Sliwa. I'm not even kidding. But even then, like, voting for Sliwa is a waste of a vote at this point because Mamdani and Cuomo are really the only ones that were going to win.
People. And he beat him easily, and I congratulated him. And we talked about some things in very strong common, like housing and getting housing built and food and prices, and the price of oil is coming way down. Anything I do is going to be good for New York. If I can get prices down, it's good for New York. And we've got them down, way down from last year. We have, as you know, I've been saying to a lot of people, Walmart said that Thanksgiving this year is exactly 25% less than last year, so that's good for New York.
I don't know about that one. I mean, all I have to say to that is, in grocery stores, have you seen the prices of eggs? Just saying.
New York, good for everybody. But I just want to congratulate. I think you're going to have hopefully a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am, I will say. There's no difference in party. There's no difference in anything. And we're going to be helping him to make everybody's dream come true, having a strong and very safe New York. And
I will say, optically, this puts Trump and Mamdani in a very interesting position that I don't think a lot of people were expecting. And what I mean by that is, there's one thing that Trump and Mamdani have in common, and again, that's another thing you probably wouldn't expect, and that's that they're just very radically different compared to what you would expect in politics. Like, when Trump ran for his first term, he was so unlike any other Republican or Democrat politician. He was different. And same for when he ran for a second term even. Like, he was just so different. Like, people were getting sick of the same old politician that eventually, like, people wanted something different. So they were like, fuck it, I'm voting for Trump. That's one of the reasons we're voting for Trump. And Mamdani, in a weird way, is kind of similar to that, where he's just very different compared to what you would expect a politician to run as, like, the mayor for New York. And he does have, like, a lot of promise. I mean, like, listen, I think it's one thing to say that, like, if you're concerned about some of Mamdani's policies, you're concerned about whether he'll fold under pressure. I think those are valid concerns to have of Mamdani. But also, New York is already so fucked up. A lot of people, like, hate New York. They hate and they love it at the same time. So, like, fuck it. How worse could it get, right? So Mamdani could be, like, the change that we need. Mamdani is a wild card, but he might be the wild card that we have to just take. Sometimes some of the best things done in life are with taking risks.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Please.
I appreciated the meeting with the president, and as he said, it was a productive meeting focused on a place of shared admiration and love, which is New York City, and the need to deliver affordability to New Yorkers, the 8.5 million people who call our city their home, who are struggling to afford life in the most expensive city in the United States of America. We spoke about rent, we spoke about groceries, we spoke about utilities, we spoke about the different ways in which people are being pushed out, and I appreciated the time with the president, I appreciated the conversation. I look forward to working together to deliver that affordability for New Yorkers.
Thank you very much. Any questions, please?
President Trump, Stephen Nelson from the New York Post. I've got a question for you and then also one for the mayor-elect. For you, you referred to Mr. Mamdani as a communist. Could you describe why you feel that way? And also, will you do anything to stop him from arresting Prime Minister Netanyahu if he visits New York?
Oh, yeah. I remember Mamdani said that because Netanyahu is a war criminal, so Mamdani said he would arrest Netanyahu if he ever came to New York. That's actually, like, very funny. It's not funny what's happening in Gaza. I'm saying it's funny that, if Netanyahu got arrested because he is a fucking shit person.
Well, we didn't
shit leader.
Discuss your second part of the question, and on your first part, I mean, he's got views that are a little out there, but who knows? I mean, we're going to see what works, or he's going to change also. We all change. I changed a lot.
Dude, this is so interesting. I mean, I remember Trump was, posting on Truth Social that, if Mamdani wins, he would, cut federal funding for certain parts of New York, right? But like now, like Trump is actually like giving some like weird praise to Mamdani in like some of the weirdest ways. And like whatever Trump says, like typically MAGA is gonna follow suit. So I wonder if like in a weird way optically Mamdani, like this is a very huge potential moment for Mamdani here, because optically he can look good for both anyone who's left-leaning and even potentially like MAGA, honestly, because if Trump is like praising Mamdani, like MAGA is going to follow suit with Trump to some capacity. And this tells me a couple of things. There's really two kinds of conservatives that I've kind of got in my head as of recently. And those are the kinds who hate Jews and those who don't hate Jews. I'm talking about mainly the Nick Fuenteses who hate Jews, like the white supremacist conservatives, like super far-right conservatives, like Nick Fuentes, who is a white supremacist and hates Jewish people. And that's like a huge part of why there's been a lot of more infighting in the right, because, typically the right hasn't really cared for a lot of marginalized groups. They don't really care about black people. They don't care about Asians. They don't care about a lot of gay people or trans people or any of those people, right? They don't care about a lot of these marginalized groups. But like the moment like people like Nick Fuentes and like other people who hate Jews on the far right were expressing their beliefs, that's what kind of like caused a lot of infighting, and with Trump included. And like Trump wasn't really winning the narrative from that side. So I actually feel like because Trump is like kind of really like losing out on the polls, I wonder if this is like a last ditch effort to be like, maybe I could win over some people on the left somehow, or maybe I could win over Mamdani in some weird way. I don't know. Like, I feel like Trump's like playing this like interesting political game, but like optically Mamdani could look good for it to be very bipartisan.
A lot from when I first came to office. It's now quite a while ago. It's quite a while. My first term was great. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We're doing even better now. We're doing much better now than we did even in the first term. And I can tell you some of my views have changed. And we had discussions on something. I'm not going to discuss what they were, but that I feel very confident that he can do a very good job. I think he is going to surprise some conservative people, actually.
That's really interesting. Like, I just was not expecting Trump to like really praise Mamdani, because Trump wasn't praising Mamdani whatsoever on Truth Social, but now he's like turning around. It's so interesting. Like I'm mainly concerned for like how like Mamdani is going to handle this. I think like Mamdani could actually use this as an opportunity to really like resonate with some conservatives and be very bipartisan. And I think Mamdani should like use that opportunity. I mean, he kind of has to, right, to win over some people that he can, right?
And some very liberal people, he won't surprise them because they already like him.
And Mr. Mamdani, it sounds like you had a productive discussion, but just days ago you referred to President Trump as a despot who had betrayed the country. You said you'd be his worst nightmare and accused him of having a fascist agenda. Are you...
Oh, the deficits, yeah, that like were mainly Trump. It blamed like Biden and Obama for the fucking deficits.
Planning to retract any of these remarks in order to improve your relationship?
I think both President Trump and I, we are very clear about our positions and our views, and what I really appreciate about the president is that the meeting that we had focused not on places of disagreement, which there are many, and also focused on the shared purpose that we have in serving New Yorkers. And frankly, that is something that could transform the lives of the 8.5 million people who are currently struggling under a cost of living crisis, with 1 in 4 living in poverty. And the meeting came back again and again to what it could look like to lift those New Yorkers out of struggle and start to deliver them a city that they could do more than just struggle to afford it, but actually start to live in it.
And I've been called much worse than a despot, so it's not that insulting. But maybe I think he'll change his mind after we get to working together. Yes, please.
Mr. President, Anthony Marshak from MTV Lebanon. I would like to ask you
MTV Lebanon? What the fuck? I haven't even heard of you guys.
a question about the Middle East regarding, you said that Hezbollah in Lebanon is not in a good position, and Lebanon now is the final unresolved after Gaza and Syria. Given your...
Man, the Middle East just can't catch a fucking break, dude. It's like, suppose Israel-Palestine somehow reaches a two-state solution or whatever solution they come to, like, there's always going to be, like, another conflict in the Middle East. Like, Lebanon has conflicts with, I think with Israel, actually, funny enough, I'm pretty sure. Iran has conflict with Israel. And then you have, like, Saudi Arabia, who had conflict with Yemen at one point, which, by the way, Trump, I didn't react to it, but, like, Trump met with the royalty of Saudi Arabia to try to, like, develop relations with the royals there. And I have mixed feelings about it, because on one hand, I'm not really comfortable giving some of these Middle Eastern countries, like, I guess, too much power or too much trust. to like whitewash some of the history. Like with Saudi Arabia, they've committed a genocide against Yemen. They've committed many war crimes there. They kill journalists there. There's all sorts of like crimes that like Saudi Arabia has done, and also a lot of their cities in the Middle East are built off of slave labor. And so like I'm not super comfortable like giving these countries too much praise. But also, like, with the whole Mr. Beast land being built there, with, like, Saudi Arabia trying, and also the comedy festival as well, the Riyadh Comedy Festival, and, like, everything, it seems like they're trying, like, this new path to, like, whitewash their history, and so I'm not particularly comfortable with it, but there may be an opening. There's a very small chance that there's an opening here to maybe make Saudi a little bit more progressive. I don't know. I think that's a very, very low chance. I don't think we're going to get to that point. But I would love to be wrong. Maybe there is a route for it somewhere. So I don't know.
Like, what do you say for the Lebanese today? It's the Independence Day in Lebanon. And what is your next move to push toward disarmament, the disarmament of Hezbollah?
Well, we are pushing for total disarmament of Hamas and, frankly, everybody else. And we actually have peace in the Middle East. As you know, the King of Saudi Arabia just left yesterday. We had some great meetings, and he's made a contribution toward the United States of more than $1 trillion. We have now over $20 trillion coming in. No country has ever had anything like that, not even close. If you go to 2 trillion or 1...
I mean, who knows if Saudi Arabia is going to be able to manage to keep up that deal. But it seems like Saudi is trying, the King of Saudi Arabia is trying to develop good relations with the U.S. to some capacity. I'm not particularly comfortable with it. I'm very skeptical about it. But it could be a good thing. There's a chance it could be, a very small chance.
Trillion, it's a lot. We have 20 or 21 trillion dollars. I think that Hezbollah has been a problem in Lebanon, big problem. We're working with Lebanon. We're working with everybody in the Middle East. That's another thing I think we have in common. We want to see peace in the Middle East, and we actually have now for the first time peace in the Middle East after 3,000 years. And now we're going to refine it, and I think you're going to see some very positive things happen.
There is a potential to invite the Lebanese president to meet you to the White House.
I would do that, absolutely. And if the mayor would like to be here for that meeting, because I know he feels very strongly. I think he feels very, very strongly about peace in the Middle East.
We desperately want it, and that's something that I shared with the president, that when I spoke to New Yorkers who had voted for the president last November on Hillside Avenue and Fordham Road, I asked them why. I heard again and again two major reasons. One was that they wanted an end to forever wars. They wanted an end to the taxpayer dollars we had funding violations of human rights, and they wanted to address the cost of living crisis. And I appreciated the chance to discuss both of those things.
You said a lot.
See, that's interesting because you could levy some of that criticism against Biden, and you could levy some of that criticism against like the Democrats, because like the Democrats don't have perfect policies. They don't. You know, like it's definitely not great. And even like with Biden, I don't think his handling of the Israel-Palestine conflict was superb. I don't think Biden was like a terrible president by any means. I wasn't like the biggest fan of him, but I don't think he was terrible either. You know what I mean? I wouldn't put him in like the top 10 worst presidents ever. It's just that I wasn't really a big fan of like some of his handling with it. You know, generally speaking, I mean, it's weird because like Trump said that like he wanted to handle the Middle East very, very well, but like I literally, like, his plan was to, like, flatten Gaza earlier this year, so I'm a little skeptical about him telling the truth there, but I don't know. It seems like Mamdani, like, I don't really think Mamdani would lie about something like that. Like, generally speaking, whenever I see Mamdani is, like, tries to tackle an uncomfortable question, typically Mamdani will use, like, plausible deniability language instead of actually lie about something straight up. So I don't think he'd lie about that, so I guess I'll believe it for now.
A lot of my voters actually voted for him, and I'm okay with that. I'll do that. I'll sign it. Give it to me. I'll sign it in a minute. That's pretty good.
Mr. President, you've threatened to send federal troops to New York City. You both have differences when it comes to ICE agents in New York City. Mr. Mamdani, you've called ICE a rogue government entity. I wonder how you reconcile your differences on both of those issues.
Well, I think we're going to work them out, and I think that if we have known murderers and known drug dealers and some very bad people, you know, we want to get him out. And the mayor wants to have peace. We discussed this at great length, actually, maybe more than anything else. He wants to have a safe New York. Ultimately, a safe New York is going to be a great New York. If it's not safe, no matter how well we do with pricing and with anything else, we can talk about anything you want. If you don't have safe streets, it's not going to be a success. So we're going to work together. We're going to make sure that if there's...
I mean, we can try, but like New York's like one of the largest cities in the world, like, you know, population-wise anyway. And then you have, like, all the... It's so weird, because, like, you have, like, the fucking subway systems, and that's a whole other conversation we can get into, where how the MTA, for those of you guys who don't know, any non-New Yorkers, that's Metropolitan Transportation Authority. Essentially what that means is they're like the main transit system that runs in New York. And they're like very... they kind of like take advantage of the systems in New York. Like they know that a lot of New Yorkers are very dependent on the MTA for like travel and commute and stuff. So, and they know that, and so they can keep like raising the price, making it more unbearable to use it like every single day. And so like I feel like the MTA, and also the MTA doesn't really apply. They get very complacent and they like get a bunch of funding, but they don't actually do anything with that funding. They don't really do much with it. Instead, they just fucking like are way too, I guess, complacent with where they currently are or whatever. It's just, but they know that like New Yorkers depend on them, and so it's like a massive like fucking problem with the MTA specifically. And same for like the LIRR or the Metro North, which are both railroads that the MTA also owns, by the way. So they make money off of both of those because they know that people outside of the city commute to New York as well. So they want to capitalize off that as much as possible.
They're horrible people there. We want to get them out. I think he wants to get them out maybe more than I do. So
it's kind of unrelated to what they're talking about, but it's a whole other conversation that's related to New York to some capacity.
we'll work together. We discussed it at great length. Yes, please.
Yeah, two questions, if I may. One for you, Mr. President, on BBC in a second. But first of all, for the Mayor-elect, you're both from different parts of the political spectrum. You're both populists, though, and I just wonder to what extent the President's campaign style, his techniques, his social media use, inspired any part of your campaign?
I would say definitely. I mean, Trump used a lot of social media to help with his campaign, mainly Twitter. Truth Social was only like a thing after Trump became president, like for a second term, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, like mainly Twitter was helpful. I would say Elon Musk owning Twitter before Trump's presidency massively helped with Trump's campaign, because Elon Musk artificially inflates Twitter's algorithm to be more right-wing, and he was heavily pushing for Trump to be elected, considering Elon Musk is like one of the richest men in America. So Elon Musk was like heavily pushing that, and yeah, I would say that was like one of the hugest parts for why Trump won, but there's so many other reasons. You can't just pinpoint it to just one thing.
I actually told the president.
But yeah, no, Mamdani definitely took inspiration from that. Like, he heavily used social media very well and resonated with a lot of people.
That, you know, so much of the focus of our campaign has been on the cost of living crisis. And when we asked those New Yorkers who had voted for the president, when we saw an increase in his numbers in New York City, that came back to the same issue: cost of living, cost of living, cost of living. And they spoke about the cost of groceries, the cost of rent, the cost of Con Ed, the cost of childcare. And too often politicians are looking to lecture.
Damn you, Con Edison.
To New Yorkers what they should care about, as opposed to listen. And when we spoke to those voters who voted for President Trump, we heard them speak about cost of living. We focus on that same cost of living, and that's where I am really looking forward to delivering for New Yorkers in partnership with the president on the affordability agenda.
And I think we have to work a little bit. We talked about Con Edison. We have to work a little bit on getting the prices, because, you know, we've gotten fuel prices way down, but it hasn't shown up in Con Edison. And we're going to have to talk to them. You know, if we're sending them fuel at a much lower price than it was a year ago, which is true, we have to get Con Edison to start lowering the rates.
Absolutely.
I mean, you could actually, I mean, it literally just ties back to what I said earlier about the MTA. Like, yes, you could do it for Con Edison, but like, I feel like you could apply the same thing to the MTA, where a lot of cities and a lot of towns generally are very dependent on one piece of infrastructure. And that could vary from like a school, a university, a factory, or any number of things, right? It could be like a lot of small towns. Mainly you see this in America. I don't know what that could be for New York. I feel like the most likely answer is probably the MTA to some capacity, but it could be another corporation in America, or it could be another piece of infrastructure in America, or in New York specifically, right? So I don't fully know that for sure, but I would say a lot of New Yorkers are very dependent on the MTA, and I would say that's like a huge thing. I wouldn't say that like I don't know what Mamdani has to say about the MTA. But I would definitely be curious to see how he handles it. I don't know.
Last week you told me you were pushing ahead with your plans to sue BBC for up to $5 billion. You're going to speak to Prime Minister Starmer as well. Is there any progress or any updates on those issues?
Well, we get along very well with the Prime Minister. We made a deal with UK. I like him. He's a fine person. And, you know, I think they have some big energy problems. You know, they've got windmills all over the place. They're going to have to start using other methods because their energy is out of control. Talking about in the UK, it's out of control, and he's got that problem. He's got a big immigration problem, as you know, and he's got a big energy problem, and we talk about it. He's a good man. Prime Minister's a good man.
Have you had a chance to speak this week?
I haven't spoken this week.
Have you spoken to President Zelensky, or do you intend to meet with him, President Zelensky, about your plan? Are you going to meet with him?
I've spoken with their people. We have a plan. It's horrible what's happening. It's a war that should have never happened. It would have never happened if I was president, and it's a shame. And I thought they should have acted quicker. But it's a cold winter, and a lot of the...
God, didn't it, like, start because... Okay, I don't know. Like, I feel like maybe Trump is, like... he's just, like, blame... It's all Biden's fault, I guess.
A lot of the... You talk about utilities, but a lot of the big energy-producing plants have been under attack, to put it mildly, to put it nicely. Yeah, we have a way of getting peace, or we think we have a way of getting peace. He's going to have to approve it. Just so sad, so many people. You know, last month they lost 25,000 soldiers. This is something, we haven't seen anything like this since the Second World War. And they're averaging 6,000 or 7,000 a week between the two of them, dead soldiers. And it goes on, and I think they're getting reasonably close. But I don't want to predict. I would have said that would have been one of my early ones. I did 8 peace deals of countries, including in India, Pakistan. You could even go, in fact, they're coming here in a week or two, go to the Congo and Rwanda. That was 10 million people dead. And we worked something out on that, but so many. And the one...
Yeah, there's too many issues. Africa's another like continent that has like a plethora of issues and conflict going on. I mean, there's like a literal genocide going on in Sudan as well, and unfortunately, it's gotten really awful this year in particular. In Libya as well, there's another country. It's another country that unfortunately still has slavery to this day. Libya has like a massive slavery problem that's been ongoing for many, many years, and unfortunately there's not really much that we can do about it. I mean, if America is like a global police that like spreads Western values, I mean, eventually you would want to try to have some level of reform for these countries, but there's only so much we can do to get to that point, I suppose.
What I thought would have been, for me, because I have a very good relationship with President Putin, I thought that would have been maybe quicker, but it does take 2 to tango. And now
good relationship with Putin. I don't know if you should. Here's the thing, right? I don't know if Putin's not the kind of person you want to have like you, basically. That's what I feel. I mean, Russia literally is like pretty much the antithesis of what America is in a lot of ways. Like, Russia has no freedom of speech. There's no free elections. It's basically like a makeshift dictatorship. And it's like Vladimir Putin has been around for as long as you can remember. And Russia just has had a very, very harsh history just embedded within their culture. And they absolutely like tried to like get Trump elected to some capacity. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, any Russian influence definitely makes me uncomfortable too.
You just see all the death. And, you know, it doesn't affect us other than the fact that we don't want to see all those people dead. Really, it's on the other side of the ocean. It's a war that should have never happened. It did happen. I blame the person also sitting right behind this desk. This is a war that should have never happened, and it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, blaming Biden. Great.
If I were president. But we're trying to save a lot of lives.
How fun.
They're losing 25, think of that, 25,000 lives over the last short period of time. That's Ukrainian and Russian. And it's a shame.
I want to ask the mayor-elect about a House resolution just passed overwhelmingly to condemn socialism, including with 86 Democrats, all of House Dem leadership, and the Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, despite his endorsement of you. What's your reaction to that?
I have to be honest with you, I focused very little on resolutions, frankly. I've been focusing...
Condemn socialism.
I understand. I think the focus is on the work at hand. I can tell you I am someone who is a democratic socialist. I've been very open about that. And I know there might be differences about ideology, but the place of agreement is the work that needs to be done to make New York City affordable. That's what I look forward to.
And I want to clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson. He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist. And your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh my God.
It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
Oh. That's actually so funny. You know, I mean, I guess my dad was right. Like, my dad was telling me the other day, like, hey, listen, Trump is a real prick, but like, the one thing you can say about Trump is he has a very good sense of humor. So... That's actually funny, but I actually think I want to go a little deeper than that. and like say that this is also another important part. Like, look at them. Look, both Trump and Mamdani are literally smiling here. It's like, it's very interesting because it's like, optically, this actually makes Mamdani look really bipartisan and really good here. The fact that he's getting praise from Trump. And also, not to mention, like, the reporters were, like, asking questions and, like, trying to grill Mamdani and, like, trying to catch him in, like, a gotcha. But, like, Trump literally was, like, saying, yeah, it's okay, you could say it. And I think when he says, like, it's okay, you could say it, I think Trump was realizing, like, it's not really that important to be answering some of these, like, nothing questions. It's, like, really not that, you know, and not to say that the reporter asked, like, a terrible question necessarily. Not saying that you should be asking it, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really not that important compared to, like, what we're focusing on, like, in the right now and how Mamdani's going to handle, like, his presidency overall. Like, it's like, so that's why Trump was like, yeah, it's okay, you can call me that, because, like, it's really not that important, honestly, in the grand scheme of things. It's much easier to do that. So it's actually, like, kind of, it's, in a weird way, this is actually, like, much more impactful and meaningful than people may initially think, and not for any of the reasons they may expect.
President, I wanted to ask you also about this Ukraine plan.
Yeah.
President Zelensky said today that his country would risk either giving up a partner or giving up its dignity. There's been criticism that this deal proposal...
He doesn't like it?
Well, no. I mean, didn't Russia... Oh, Russia, like, still has, like, 25% of some of Ukraine's land, right? Like, I'm pretty sure. And they're still trying to invade Ukraine, but they're failing at, like, taking over a country that's, like, 10 times smaller than them.
It's unclear. He was sort of tenuous about it.
He'll have to like it, and if he doesn't like it, then, you know, they should just keep fighting, I guess, you
The
know.
suggestion that he made, though, was that if he doesn't accept it, that the U.S. would pull back its support for Ukraine. Is that
Well, at some
accurate?
point, he's going to have to accept something. You know, he hasn't accepted. You remember right in the Oval Office not so long ago, I said, you don't have the cards. Don't forget, I inherited this war. I would have never, this war never would have happened. I inherited this war. And I thought he should have made a deal a year ago, 2 years ago. The ultimate deal would have been if it never started. That would have been a good deal. That could have been done too if you had the right president, but you didn't have the right president.
Mr. President.
Crazy. I mean, he's always, like, sneaking in some level of fucking digs, though, at Biden. It's just like,
Mr. President, the cost of living is something that you and Mr. Mamdani seem to agree on. Democrats have run New York City for a long time, Mr. Mamdani. Do you see Democrat policy specifically as being a problem? And I'd like that be a question that both of you could answer in New York City.
Look, I think that there are many things in our city where we have to own the responsibility of it, things that existed long before the president was the president. And those are also part of the message of our campaign, was to take on a broken politics of the past. And I ran against a number of candidates who represented different versions of that past. And
Andrew Cuomo.
we found time.
And I guess Sliwa to some capacity as well, because Sliwa was, like, doing vigilantism in, like, the 70s or the 80s. To try to get, like, crime off the streets. It was, like, it was interesting. I don't know how much I'm all for vigilantism and how much of a precedent it could set, but...
And again, is that working people were left behind in the politics of our city. And what we're looking to do is put those people right back at the heart of our politics so that we don't have a situation where we're in the wealthiest city in the history of the world, and yet 1 in 5 can't even afford $2.90 for a Metro card.
Mr. Mamdani?
You know, we had some interesting conversation, and some of his ideas really are the same ideas that I have. But a big thing on cost, you know, the new word is affordability. Another word is just groceries. You know, it's sort of an old-fashioned word, but it's very accurate. And they're coming down high. They were, you know, we had, both of us, we had the highest inflation in the history of our country the last 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's so weird, but, like, earlier Trump said that, like, the cost got lowered by, like, 25% or something like that. He heard, like, testimony from people. That's what he claims anyway. So is he, like, contradicting himself there? Whatever. I guess that's, like, really not important. To be honest, I'm not really, like, focused on, like, the contradictions that Trump is making right now. I still am not a huge fan of Trump as a president overall. Like, I'm not trying to, like, say that all of the bad things Trump did is now, like, completely wiped away because he's having, like, a really surprisingly very good meeting here with Mr. Mamdani. So I mean, I'm not saying that it completely completely undoes all of Trump's wrongdoing in the past, but I think that, like, a bigger conversation to have is that, like, a big thing is, like, food stamps as well. And if you take away food stamps from, like, different regions of areas, you actually are taking away legitimate money from people. And when you think about it, that you are taking away money from people. And that's because a lot of money that you earn, you will put out back into the economy in some capacity for, like, groceries, for food, all that good stuff. So, like, food in a weird way is, like, a another like sub currency, and in a weird way when you like put out food stamps. I know that's like a weird way to think about it, but it actually is true, and it makes a lot of sense when you put a lot of thought into it.
Under the Biden administration, and we've got inflation down now to a normal number. It's going to go even a little bit lower than that. Katie, do you have something?
Mr. President, thank you so much. Mr. Mamdani often talks about New York City being covered by international law, that they will follow international law. Doesn't often talk about the U.S. Constitution. What is your response to that?
Well, I don't know what you're referring to in terms of it can be covered by international law, local law. It's covered by a lot of laws, but it's covered by U.S. law. Are you referring to anything in particular?
He just says that they're a city that endorses and enforces international law. Is that at odds with U.S.
I don't
law?
know. Would you want to respond to
Yeah,
that?
I think what I've shared with the president is our desire to not only follow the laws of our own city, laws that protect New Yorkers, but also a desire for consistency in our politics across the board. And that's something that we've talked about and something that I know many New Yorkers want.
We work with ICE. We work with ICE then?
We discussed ICE and New York City, and I spoke about how the laws that we have in New York City allow for New York City government to speak to the federal administration for about 170 serious crimes. The concerns that many New Yorkers have are around the enforcement of immigration laws on New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs, and most recently we're talking about a mother and her 2 children, how this has very little to do with what that is.
Mr. Mamdani,
What we did is we discussed crime. More than ICE per se, we discussed crime. And he doesn't want to see crime, and I don't want to see crime. And I have very little doubt that we're not going to get along on that issue. He wants to, and he said some things that were very interesting as to housing construction, and he wants to see houses go up. He wants to see a lot of houses created, a lot of apartments built, etc. And you know, we actually, people would be shocked, but I want to see the same thing.
Mr. Mamdani, anti-Israel protesters.
Jack?
Mr. President, I want to know one of the policies as well that Mayor-elect Mamdani talked a number of times about on the campaign was shifting the tax burden for property taxes from what he called minority communities to white-based communities and putting more taxes on white people. I also noticed that.
Oh my god, it's some fucking weird conservative cum-guzzling fucking reporter asking these questions. Oh my god. So many conservatives, like, try to twist up what Mamdani said about the whole tax thing. So let's be clear, right? Mamdani didn't say he was going to tax white people. Now, he added the white part specifically, but what really he's more focused on is taxing people that make more than $1 million a year. It's 1% of New Yorkers, really. That's really what he's focused on. And those 1% of New Yorkers that make more than $1 million a year just so happen to be white, right? Now, was adding the white part a little bit cringe? Yeah, sure, fine. I feel like optically that makes Mamdani look stupid, and he doesn't win over as many people when he says that. Right, and I feel like that was a very dumb thing to do for him. Yeah, I feel like he should have kept it as, like, just taxing, like, only 1% of millionaires who just happen to be white, right? He's not actually trying to tax white people only, and, like, a lot of conservatives tried to twist that up. Again, Mamdani optically, like, put himself in that position he probably shouldn't have, but, like, people need to, like, stop twisting up what he actually said. It's very stupid.
In your acceptance speech, you didn't mention anything about America or Christians or white people in general, and so I didn't know if that was one of the policies that you guys had spoken about.
We focused on affordability, we focused on the cost of living crisis. What I will say is that I am very much interested in property tax reform because what we see right now in New York City is a system that is so inequitable that it can't even stand up in court. And the president and I spoke about the importance of not only building more housing, but also making sure that regulation of housing is something that is manageable to actually get through and not the cause of yet another weight that we see in our
But to be
city.
clear, you're continuing this idea of race-based property taxes.
No, to be very clear.
That's not what he's doing, and obviously this, like, weird fucking conservative cum-guzzler fucking reporter is just, like, saying, oh my god, you just want to tax white people. That's basically what he's, like, trying to say. He's, like, saying, you know, you're trying to tax only white people. That's not what Mamdani said. Again, optically, I think Mamdani put himself in a very bad position, but I don't think that, like, that's not what he said. Like, include the full context, you know. It's one of those things where it's like, learn to listen. Learn to actually listen to what Mamdani was saying.
No, the use of the term was a description of neighborhoods, not a description of intent.
So you intend to tax the whiter neighborhoods more?
No, we intend to create a fair property tax system because we want a New York City that is not only fair and equitable, but also one that every New Yorker can afford.
Yeah, it just so happens to be that those 1% of New Yorkers that make more than $1 million a year are white. That's just what it so happens to be. That's why he added that part. I don't think it was good for Mamdani to do that. I don't think he was intending to try to, like, create some weird, like, reverse racist kind of thing. But, like, it's, again, Mamdani was just, like, very, I don't know. It was just very stupid of him to include that part when obviously he didn't mean it that way. It's just fucking reporters trying to twist up his words.
Mr. President,
Please go ahead.
Mr. Mamdani, anti-Israel protesters just targeted a synagogue in New York. Are you concerned about Jewish New Yorkers feeling welcome and safe in the city? And President Trump, you've threatened to cut off federal funding to New York City. What policies would prompt you to do that? Would that be city-run grocery stores? Would it be something else?
Well, I think if we didn't get along, whether it's cut off or just make it a little bit difficult or not give as much, we want to see, I use the term, we don't want good money going after bad. And we don't want that to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I did say that, subject to what policies are being said. We had a meeting today that actually surprised me. He wants to see no crime. He wants to see housing being built. He wants to see rents coming down, all things that I agree with. Now, we may disagree how we get there. The rent coming down, I think one of the things...
It's kind of a tough sell for Trump to be like, hey, I want all the rent to go down, when he literally is like, all he's done is like put in policies that only benefit billionaires in America. Or millionaires or whatever, right? Like millionaires, billionaires, sure, okay, there is a difference, fine. But anyways, like Trump was like trying to like put in policies that benefit rich people only, right? Like that's why he put in the tariffs, and then like he was like removing his own tariffs that he was putting in place because he realized how much of a fuck up he did. And then MAGA's like, oh, thank you so much for removing the tariffs that you put in there in the first place. Oh my God, thank you. So stupid. And so, like, all the tariffs did was just benefit rich people at the end of the day. And, like, Trump thought he could do, like, a one-size-fits-all solution to, like, some strange problem that, like, pretty much no one asked for a solution to.
I really gleamed very, very much today. He'd like to see him come down, ideally, by building a lot of additional housing. Yeah. That's the ultimate way. He agrees with that, and so do I. But if I read the newspapers and the stories, I don't hear that. But I heard him say it today, and I think that's a very positive step. No, I don't expect. I expect to be helping him, not hurting him. A big help, because I want New York City to be great. Look, I love New York City. It's where I come from. I spent a lot of years there. Now I'm right here. We took a big setback with the mayor that we had, Dave de Blasio. I thought it was a tremendous setback for the city. I think this mayor can do some things that are going to be really great.
Mr. President, Mr. President,
Thank you,
Mr. President. You're a billionaire. You have a different address nowadays than you used to, but you used to call New York City home. Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would. Especially after the meeting. Absolutely.
I mean, it's like one of those things where like Mamdani is a wild card, but like New York is already like so fucked up, and New York, like a lot of New Yorkers fucking hate New York anyways. That's like, how much worse could it get? Like, we kind of need something different. And again, that's what I'm saying when I think Trump and Mamdani have something in common that people may not expect, and that's that they're both radically different compared to what you would expect in a politician. It's a very weird thing that they have in common, too, that like most people wouldn't really expect.
We agree on a lot more than I would have thought. I think I want him to do a great job, and we'll help him do a great job. He may have different views, but in many ways, we were discussing when Bernie Sanders was out of the race, I picked up a lot of his votes, and people had no idea, because he was strong on not getting ripped off in trade and lots of the things that I've practiced and been very successful on. Tariffs, a lot of things. Bernie Sanders and I agreed on much more than people thought. And when he was put out of the race, I think quite unfairly, if you want to know the truth, many of the Bernie Sanders voters voted for me. And I felt very comfortable, frankly, in seeing that and saying that. And, it just turned out to be a statistical truth. But no, I feel very comfortable. I would feel very, very comfortable being in New York, and I think much more so after the meeting. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question for you, but a very quick one for the mayor. Why did you fly here? Aren't trains greener?
I'll use every form of transit, and I want to make sure that they're all affordable in New York City, and that's why making buses fast and free is a centerpiece of our campaign.
Where's the bus?
Hopefully the subway is like that too, because Jesus fucking Christ, the MTA is just so complacent with just like raising the fucking fare on like the subways and everything. And I feel like you'll hear a lot of New Yorkers complain about the MTA just like raising the fare, and it's because the MTA knows that New Yorkers are dependent on it. And they know that they can get away with it. So they're going to keep raising the fare slowly but surely. And so, like, if we didn't have, like, Mamdani... And who knows if Mamdani's going to actually do something about it, right? Because, like, again, he's a bit of a wild card. But, like, if we had any other politician, for damn sure we would know that the MTA would keep raising it to $3.25, $3.50, $4, $5, and by the time we get to the year, like, 2090 or something, it'll be, like, fucking $10 as, like, a fare to get into the fucking subway or whatever.
Well, but I know, but it'd be fluid. That's a lot quicker too. I mean, he's working very hard for him to be. It's a very That's a very long drive. I'll stick up for you. You know, the plane takes you 30 minutes and driving takes you a
And
long
Mr.
time.
President, I was wondering if you could clear up some confusion around a Washington Post report. There was this explosive report that the Coast Guard is no longer going to characterize swastikas and nooses as hate symbols. DHS called that a lie and fake news. Can you clear up?
I don't know anything about it. When was this written?
I think yesterday.
Well, look, the Coast Guard's an incredible group of people. I know them very well. We just ordered a lot of new Coast Guard cutters. Beautiful, the most magnificent ship. They look like yachts with lots of guns on them. So I don't know. I haven't seen any report like that. But certainly we want them to remain a great force, and they are.
Mr. President, peacemaker, and you did the peace in all the 9 months around the world. I would like to ask Mr. Mamdani, you've accused the U.S. government of committing genocide in Gaza while President Trump was working on peace. Why that?
I've spoken about the Israeli government committing genocide, and I've spoken about our government funding it. And I shared with the president in our meeting about the concern that many New Yorkers have of wanting their tax dollars to go towards the benefit of New Yorkers and their ability to afford basic dignity. And what we see right now is we're in the 9th consecutive year of more than 100,000 school children being homeless in our city. And there's a desperate need not only for the following of human rights, but also the following through on the promises we've made New Yorkers. And I appreciated the meeting we had and the work that we can do.
Do you agree that President Trump did do a peace and he worked hard to make the peace? Because he worked hard to do the peace in the Middle East and everywhere. Do you agree with that?
I appreciate all efforts towards peace, and I shared with President Trump that when I spoke to Trump voters on Hillside Avenue, including one of whom was a pharmacist that spoke about how President Trump's father actually went to that pharmacy not too far from Jamaica Estates, that people were tired of seeing our tax dollars fund endless wars. And I also believe that we have to follow through on the international human rights, and I know that still today those are being violated, and that continues to be work that has to be done no matter where we're speaking of.
Bro, and like Trump, you could hear Trump under his breath say like it's true and everything. Dude, it's crazy because like Trump must be fucking terrified and sweating at some of the conservatives that have turned on him. A lot of it, because there's a lot more infighting going on in the right now, and like Trump must be like super terrified that he's like losing out on the polls, and he's losing out on is it America First's narrative? I believe it's like America First that was creating this narrative, and like the people on like the Nick Fuenteses who are like super like white supremacists that also hate Jewish people, and that's really it. There are conservatives that hate Jews and there are conservatives who don't, and that's like one of the biggest reasons why there's like infighting going on. Not the only reason, but it's definitely like one of the largest ones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do you view the mayor-elect as the true leader of the Democrat Party? And do you think Leader Schumer is a leader that could, have to follow his lead?
Well, look, I hope they have great leaders. This is a man that right now I think is focused in New York City. I really think he has a chance to do a great job. We're going to help him, but I really think he has a chance to do a great job. But I'll let you answer that. You consider yourself the leader of the Democrats? I think it's fun.
Oh my god, dude, it's actually crazy. Like how much they're both smiling and how much they're like both, dude. I think this is honestly like really good for Mamdani, like overall, just like being like more bipartisan. I know I said that earlier in this video, but like Mamdani can like actually appeal to some like to some conservatives that like otherwise weren't like a big fan of Mamdani and some of his policies.
More appropriate for him?
I consider myself the next mayor of New York City, and I keep my horizons firmly on New York City, and I appreciate the meeting with the president, which focused again on the 5 boroughs and whether New Yorkers could afford to live there.
By the way, being the mayor of New York City is a big deal.
Absolutely.
I always said, one of the things I would have loved to be someday is the mayor of New York City. Being the mayor of New York, and especially now, because I think you're at really a turning point, one way or the other. It could go great, or it can go in a different direction, and I think you really have a chance to make it great.
Mr. President, you say you love New York City. Mr. Mamdani, does New York...
It's really fucking, it's just crazy. I think Trump is like really, like the strategy that Trump is doing because he's like really, I theorize that he's like really terrified of losing out on so much of these conservatives because he already has. I feel like he's like trying to be like, okay, maybe some people that are part of the Mamdani crowd might be, more for me or whatever. Maybe I'll try to win some favor over here as well. Because I genuinely think that's the strategy that he's like trying to go for here. And like, again, with Trump praising Mamdani here, I think MAGA is going to like turn around and maybe actually like really enjoy Mamdani because Trump said that Mamdani was good. And so therefore like it might actually appeal to MAGA in a lot of weird ways. There's a lot of like weird overlap we're going to get here. And there's a lot of very strange implications that I gotta say, I don't think anyone was really expecting. I certainly wasn't expecting it whatsoever, personally. I was expecting Trump to be like anti-Mamdani all the way through. But I think he's like trying anything he can to like save his own campaign, because you have to remember Trump is very self-interested. So I don't think this like praise of Mamdani is going to last forever, because at any point Trump can always like turn around and be like, nope, Mamdani's actually bad or whatever. Like he may not actually keep up with like Mamdani. And I think Mamdani also knows that like this praise from Trump may not last forever. But like I think that he is trying to win over some people in Mamdani's crowd, which also might actually help Mamdani a lot because of MAGA specifically.
New York City love President Trump?
New York City loves a future that is affordable. And I can tell you that there were more New Yorkers who voted for President Trump in the most recent presidential election because of that focus on cost of living. And I'm looking forward to working together to deliver on that affordability agenda.
I got a lot of votes. One more, go ahead. One or two more, go ahead. I tell you, the press has eaten this thing up. You know, I've had a lot of meetings with the heads of major countries. Nobody cared. This meeting that you people have gone through, you know, outside you have hundreds of people waiting. This is just a small little group. For some reason, the press has found this to be a very interesting meeting. The biggest people in the world, they come over from countries nobody cares. But they did care about this meeting, and it was a great meeting. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. President, I was going to ask you exactly that. Why do you think there's so much more, so much excitement around this than even some foreign leaders?
Because I think he's different. All right, I think he's different, and that can be in a very positive way. But I think he's different than, your typical guy, runs, wins, becomes mayor maybe, and nothing exciting. Because he has a chance to really do something great for New York. New York is at a very critical point, and he does need the help of the federal government to really succeed, and we're going to be helping him. But he's different than your average candidate. He came out of nowhere. I said he has a great campaign manager standing over there. He came out of nowhere. What'd you start off at 1 or 2? And then I watched. I said, who is this guy? He was at 1, then he was at 3, then he was at 5, then he was at 9, then he went up to 17. I said, that's getting a little bit interesting, right? And then all of a sudden he wins a primary that nobody expected he was going to win. It's a great tribute. I mean, it's an amazing thing that he did.
And I'll just add one thing to what the president said. Is one thing I also appreciated is in our meeting to appreciate a portrait of FDR and the incredible work that was done with the New Deal, and also in thinking about what it can look like when the federal government and New York City government work together to deliver on affordability. It can be transformative.
It's actually very interesting that Mamdani referenced the New Deal, because that's actually a much bigger deal than people might think, because the FDR was a phenomenal president. FDR, I think, was the only president in U.S. history that's been able to run 4 times. Have 4 terms. He died on his 4th term. But I think FDR was one of the reasons why we enacted the 22nd Amendment, where presidents are only allowed to run for 2 terms. But FDR was just so fantastic and so beloved. He's easily a top 5 president because he was just that good, and he was able to run 4 times because of the New Deal and all the policies FDR put in. And how he just made the economy much better coming out of the Great Depression, because Herbert Hoover was a total fucking hack who didn't know what the hell he was doing. Yeah, I mean, it's I feel like Mamdani referencing that and kind of almost being hey, that's actually a huge thing there, that's actually something I could aim to try to, I guess, take inspiration from the right term? Should I say take inspiration from? Because I don't know. It's interesting that he referenced that, because he knows that what might be required to reach to the point that FDR did. That's really the point I'm trying to get at.
We have a great portrait of FDR that I found in the vaults that was missing for years. I found it, and I put it up. He's a Democrat, to the best of my knowledge. He's a Democrat. And when the mayor saw that portrait, he said, "Sir, do you mind if I have a picture taken by that portrait?" It's an amazing portrait. I hope the picture comes out good. But it's an amazing portrait in the cabinet room. So he's a big fan of the New Deal, I guess, and of FDR. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said that you both spoke about crime. There are many police officers set to come off the rolls at the end of this year in New York City. Are you going to allow those police to be replaced with police officers, actual cops? And are you going to require that happens? Would there be some consequence if the
Well, I hope
staff
it happens, but again, that's going to be ultimately the mayor's decision.
What's your answer?
Is that I look forward to delivering public safety with the NYPD, and I've said over the course of our campaign that we have the number of police officers today. They are the ones that's budgeted about 35,000 headcount. And I think the key thing is that we have to make it easier for police to focus on police work, not ask them to respond to 200,000 mental health calls a year.
So is that a reduction from what you're at right now? Are you committing to maintaining the same level of cops?
I've committed over the course of the campaign to maintain the 35,000. That's the headcount that we had through the campaign.
And not replace them with caseworkers, social workers?
No, I've said that's the headcount that we want. What we need to do is make sure they can focus on serious crime.
Well, actually, also another thing that like makes Mamdani really good optically to be like more bipartisan as opposed to being like biased or maybe like far like left leaning. Another really good thing for Mamdani is that he actually had the option to appoint like a new police chief, but he actually chose what's her name? Is it Kirsten like Kirsch or something? What's her name? Is it Jessica? I hold on. I actually have to look now. Oh, Jessica Tisch, the police commissioner, who's like more conservative, like leaning. Yeah, this is who I was talking about. Yeah. Okay, I forgot her name for a moment because I didn't know that much. Okay, yeah. But yeah, no, Mamdani chose to keep Jessica Tisch like in office just because he enjoyed that like some of the crime she's contributed to a lot of like the lower crime rates in some parts of New York, and so Mamdani opted to keep her in because he generally prioritizes the safety of New York, which makes Mamdani have potential to be like more bipartisan, like just things like that, you know what I mean? And I feel like that like makes Mamdani optically look a little better.
He just retained a great police commissioner, I believe, right?
Yes, we did. Commissioner Tisch.
If the newspapers are correct.
Oh my god, I literally just brought it up.
They're correct about
it. He retained, I think, somebody that is she's a good friend of some of the people in my family, of Ivanka, and they say she's really good, really competent, and he just retained her, so that's a good sign.
Mr. President, are there still topics that you see the two of you disagreeing on in the future, and do you think you'll have more meetings like this?
There will be topics that we disagree on. I think we'll probably come to a conclusion, and ultimately, he'll convince me, or I'll convince him. You know, it's for the good of New York. Ultimately, it's for the good of New York. I don't care about affiliations or parties or anything else. I want to see if this city could be unbelievable. If he could be a spectacular success, I'd be very happy.
Do you think you guys will meet more in the future too?
Excuse me?
Do you think you'll meet again in the future, throughout the administration?
I think we will. I hope we do. I enjoyed the meeting. We had a great meeting. Please.
Mr. President, Republican Elise Stefanik has campaigned multiple times by calling Zohran Mamdani a jihadist. Do you think you're standing next to a jihadist right now in the Oval Office?
No, I don't, but...
definitely not. Jihadists are, like, legitimate extremists. Mamdani, it's like a bunch of, like, far-right people think that Mamdani is, like, anti-Semitic or whatever. Or, like, a bunch of, like, people, like, tried to say that Mamdani was, like, anti-Semitic or, like, a jihadist or, like, some kind of extremist. And the only, like, evidence they have of that is just Mamdani screaming at a protest. That was, like, that was a clip that was going around on Twitter. Oh, no, as if people haven't screamed at, like, a million other protests. Oh, no. This was, like, before Mamdani came into the limelight. Oh, no.
She's out there campaigning, and, you say things sometimes in a campaign.
Isn't that sort of
She's a very capable person. But you really have to ask her about that. But I don't particularly. I think I met with a man who's a very rational person. I met with a man who really wants to see New York be great again. And I can say again, because New York was great. When I came down to Washington initially, the city was so hot. It was doing great. We were having some telltale signs and problems. We had a mayor that was not doing a great job, but still, it was moving along.
Is he talking about Bill de Blasio?
And it went bad. It really went, pretty bad. And I think it's been at lower points, but it went pretty bad. I think he can bring it back. Now the question is, will he bring it back all the way? Will he bring it back greater than ever before, which is, I guarantee, that's his wish. I think he wants to make it greater than ever before. And if he can, we'll be out there cheering. I'll be cheering for him. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
You chose not to answer the question about sitting on
Thank you very much.
Nice. All right. Well, I mean, listen, I wasn't really expecting that to go the way it did, but overall, I think this is going to wind up being a huge W for Mamdani. Honestly, like, this actually shows a lot of promise. Does this wipe away everything Trump has done? No, absolutely not. Like, Trump is still a very shit president. He's done a lot of really awful things for this country. But, yeah, I mean, overall, Mamdani, like, actually getting praise from Trump is going to do very well for his campaign and more than people think, honestly.